That one moment your heart stops, and it is not your fault. You are driving home, just like any other night. The road is familiar, the music is low, and your mind is somewhere else. Maybe you are thinking about tomorrow, about the argument you had earlier, about what you are going to eat when you get home. Then it happens, the lights. That sudden flash of red and blue in your rearview mirror that turns your blood to ice and your thoughts to static. You have not done anything wrong. You know this with absolute certainty. There is no alcohol in your system, no speed on your odometer, no missed signal, no broken taillight. You are the picture of a perfect, law-abiding citizen. So why are you being pulled over? What could possibly justify this moment of pure, unadulterated panic that grips you the second those lights appear? The answer is almost always nothing. Or rather, something so small and so meaningless that it might as well be nothing. That moment your heart stops, and it is not your fault, is more common than you think. It happens to thousands of drivers every single night across this country. People who are doing everything right, who have checked every box, who are driving with caution and care. And yet there they sit on the shoulder of some dark highway, watching an officer approach with a flashlight and a clipboard and a question that makes absolutely no sense. Why are you pulling me over? You want to ask it. You want to scream it. But something stops you. Maybe it is fear. Maybe it is respect. Maybe it is the deep instinctual knowledge that anything you say right now can and will be used against you. So you stay quiet. You hand over your license. You answer their questions. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a small voice whispers that this feels wrong, that this should not be happening, that you are being treated like a criminal when you have done absolutely nothing to deserve it. That voice is right. And that voice is the reason you are here right now, reading this, because you know something is broken in the system. You know that being pulled over for no reason is not just an inconvenience. It is a violation. It is a moment where the power dynamic shifts entirely, and suddenly you are not a citizen with rights. You are a suspect who has to prove their innocence. The weight of that realization hits you like a ton of bricks the second those lights flash in your mirror. Your hands tighten on the steering wheel, your mouth goes dry, your heart slams against your ribs like it is trying to escape your chest, and you have not even done anything wrong. That is the part that gets you. That is the part that makes your blood boil, even as your hands tremble. You have done nothing wrong, and yet here you are, about to be interrogated, about to be judged, about to be treated like someone who deserves to be pulled over. But the moment your heart stops, and it is not your fault, it is also the moment you have to make a choice. You can freeze, you can panic, you can start apologizing and explaining and trying to prove that you are a good person. Or you can remember that you have rights, and that those rights do not disappear just because a police officer is standing at your window. The law is still the law, even on a dark road at 11:47 at night. The Constitution still exists, even when there are flashing lights in your mirror. And you still have the power to say no, to ask questions, to protect yourself from a system that is designed to make you feel powerless. The challenge is staying calm when everything inside you is screaming to run, to hide, to do whatever it takes to make this nightmare end. So let us talk about what is really happening when those lights appear behind you. Let us break down the legal game that is being played on the side of that road, because make no mistake, it is a game. The officer who pulls you over for a dim license plate light or a brief touch of the center line is not doing it because they are concerned about public safety. They are doing it because they are looking for something else. Something bigger. Something that will justify the stop, justify the search, justify the arrest if they can find it. The dim light, the lane deviation, the routine check. Those are what lawyers call pretexts. They are excuses. They are the legal fig leaf that covers the real purpose of the stop, which is to fish for evidence of a crime they have no probable cause to investigate. And the courts have allowed it. They have said that as long as the officer can point to some minor traffic violation, no matter how trivial, the stop is legal. That is the loophole. That is the crack in the system that lets them pull over anyone, anytime, for any reason or no reason at all. That moment your heart stops and it is not your fault, it is also the moment you become aware of just how vulnerable you really are. You are sitting in a metal box on the side of the road with a person who has a gun and a badge and the authority to make your life very difficult. They can ticket you, arrest you, search your car, detain you for hours. And all of that can happen without you ever having done a single thing wrong. The law gives them that power, and the courts have upheld it. So what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to protect yourself when the rules are stacked against you? The answer is surprisingly simple, but it is also incredibly hard to execute in the moment. You have to know your rights. You have to be able to articulate them clearly and calmly. And you have to be willing to say no, even when every fiber of your being is telling you to cooperate, to comply, to just do what they say so they will let you go. But cooperation is not always the answer. Compliance is not always the path to freedom. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is say yes to a question you should have said no to. Because once you give them permission, once you consent to a search, you have handed over your rights. You have given them the legal cover they need to tear your car apart, to go through your belongings, to find something they can use against you. And even if you have nothing to hide, even if your car is clean and your record is spotless, you still should not consent. Because consent is not about guilt or innocence. Consent is about power, and the moment you give it away, you cannot get it back. That is why the words you say in that moment matter so much. That is why the first thing you should say when the officer asks if they can search your car is no. Not because you have something to hide, but because you have a right to say no, and that right is worth protecting. The moment your heart stops, and it is not your fault, you have to remember that you are not alone. There are millions of people who have been in your shoes, who have felt that same spike of fear, that same rush of adrenaline, that same helpless anger. And many of them have made the mistake of talking too much, of trying to explain themselves, and thinking that if they could just make the officer understand that they are a good person, everything would be okay. But that is not how it works. The officer is not your friend. They are not there to listen to your story or to understand your side of things. They are there to enforce the law, and to them, you are just another stop, just another face in the endless stream of drivers they pull over every night. They do not care that you are a good person. They do not care that you have never been in trouble before. They care about what they can find, what they can charge you with, what they can add to their quota or their record or their reputation. That is the reality of the situation. And pretending otherwise will only get you into more trouble. So you have to be strategic. You have to be smart. You have to know exactly what to say and exactly when to say it. When the officer asks if you know why they pulled you over, the best response is to say no. Not in a confrontational way, but in a calm, neutral way. Officer, I am not sure why you pulled me over. Can you please tell me? This puts the burden on them to explain the stop. And it gives you time to think. It also prevents you from admitting to something you did not do, which is a trap that many people fall into. They start apologizing before they even know what they are apologizing for. I am so sorry, I did not realize I was speeding. I must have drifted over the line, and I am really tired. And just like that, they have given the officer a confession. They have admitted to a crime, even if the crime never happened. That is the power of words. That is why you have to be so careful with what you say. The moment your heart stops and it is not your fault, you also have to remember that you have the right to remain silent. This is not just a line from a television show. It is a constitutional protection that applies to every traffic stop. You do not have to answer questions about where you are going, where you have been, what you are doing, or whether you have anything illegal in your car. Officer, I am exercising my right to remain silent. It is that simple. But it is also that hard, because staying silent in the face of authority is one of the most unnatural things in the world. We are conditioned to be polite, to be cooperative, to answer when we are asked a question. Breaking that conditioning takes practice. It takes courage. It takes a deep and abiding faith that your rights are worth protecting, even when protecting them feels uncomfortable or awkward or scary. And then there is the most powerful question you can ask in a traffic stop. The one that changes everything. The one that puts the officer on notice that you know your rights and you are not afraid to assert them. That question is this: am I free to go? You have to ask it early. You have to ask it clearly. And you have to be prepared for the answer, whatever it may be. If the officer says yes, then you are free to leave. If they say no, then you are being detained, and they have to have a reason for that detention. They cannot just hold you indefinitely. They have to have probable cause to believe you have committed a crime. And if they do not have that, then they have to let you go. Asking if you are free to go is not being difficult or disrespectful. It is being assertive. It is reminding the officer that you are not a suspect. You are a citizen with rights. And you are not going to surrender those rights just because someone with a badge asks you to. The moment your heart stops and it is not your fault, it is also the moment you realize that the system is not designed to protect you. It is designed to protect itself. The police are trained to look for signs of guilt. They are trained to read your body language, your nervousness, your fidgeting, your avoidance of eye contact. They are looking for any excuse to escalate the stop, to turn a routine traffic violation into something more serious. And the courts have given them the tools to do that. The police are allowed to use minor infractions as a pretext to stop and investigate. They are allowed to use drug-sniffing dogs. And they are allowed to search your car if they have probable cause, or if they can get a warrant, or if you consent. And consent is the easiest thing for them to get because most people are so eager to cooperate, so eager to prove they have nothing to hide, that they just agree. They say yes without thinking. They hand over their rights without a fight. And then they spend the next few hours sitting on the side of the road wondering how it all went so wrong. So you have to be prepared. You have to know what you are going to do before you are ever in that situation. You have to practice the words you are going to say. You have to rehearse the questions you are going to ask. Officer, I am not sure why you pulled me over. Am I free to go? Because when the moment comes, when those red and blue lights appear in your mirror, you are not going to have time to think. You are going to have to act. You are going to have to draw on the knowledge and the training you have given yourself, and you are going to have to execute. That is the only way to protect yourself. That is the only way to take back control. That is the only way to make sure that the moment your heart stops and it is not your fault is also the moment you stand up for your rights.